My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Samas and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Yo, we had a show like this a couple of days ago, so you probably know what's coming more or less. I think since we have fewer matches right now, we probably will focus on the ones that happened quite a bit too. So yeah, anyway, hello Vansh. And would you say that the stories today, they were mostly on the WTA side?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have the biggest story, which is the world number one being out in the quarterfinals. That's certainly the biggest of all the matches that took place. Obviously, we still had one round of 16 men's match from yesterday, so we really had 5 matches today. But I would say the main story is on the WTA. Yeah.
So let's talk about that one then. Sabalenka Zheng, of course, that was a matchup where Kinven was struggling. Only one set won in 6 meetings. I would say even that one set in Wuhan was like a massive battle to get that one. So yeah, I mean, I think both of us, we weren't really expecting that this would be the day, but it was. And how did that happen?
Yeah, I gotta say, I was very surprised at Qin Wen. She deserves a lot of credit. She played some of the best tennis I've seen her play. I mean, normally every match that Sabalenka has played in this rivalry has been in her racket, and I can't really say that about this one, because right from the get-go, you saw Zheng, having a lot more time, like in these slow conditions, and just like going really far back on the return of serve, getting it way out of arena strike zone, using the backhand down the line and forehand down the line, actually, for that matter, really, really effectively. And just also the really higher, loopier, heavier balls, she used those really well. I mean, arena definitely wasn't like the most consistent, and it was definitely like an off day for her, for sure. She was making a lot of unforced errors, but that was also because Qin Wen was able to frustrate her and get her in those positions. And no, I mean, she served really well as well. Saved all the break points when she had to. The 2 return games she played, I thought she played pretty well to just stretch that lead. And then in the end, when she held for 5-3, I'm thinking like, okay, we'll see if she can actually serve this out at 5-4. But it didn't even need to go to that point because she breaks immediately, and Sabalenka double faults. And you can just see how hard the Madrid-Rome double is to do. It just goes to show what Iga did last year is just super impressive, and probably will go down as one of the greatest achievements, especially given the 2-week format. I think it makes it even harder. 4 weeks, try to do it back to back, different
You have
conditions.
so much rest time. I hate this argument. I've been seeing it all over Twitter today. I absolutely hate it. You have so much rest time. It's pretty much the same. I mean, both formats are difficult. But in the previous one, you had to play 12 matches over 14 days.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not saying like one is super harder, super easier, one is much harder or anything like that. But still, like 4 weeks of staying locked in mentally and physically is really hard. So I would say, I kind of just assumed that Sabalenka would win this match. And I didn't take into account like that, that this would actually come into play. And at some point, the mental fatigue would start to kick in, because it didn't really seem like Sabalenka was full on motivated at times once she went down the early break.
Yeah, I do think the way that she was reacting to stuff in this match, it kind of shows that she was, at some point, it was just too much. I won one event. I have a few tough battles already in this one, and basically she just was unable to keep going in the same manner she was, which was, just solving every single issue that was, sent her way. I do think she got like really, really just jittery, like, I don't know, frustrated at times. She couldn't really respond the best to Kinden's game. Still, there was that moment like 3-4 in the second set when she has 2 break points. If Kinden doesn't hit this ridiculous combination on the first one, probably, I mean, the match still has legs. The match still is going, and the comeback felt very real at that point. So that's another really good moment from the Chinese today, in the way that she was able to solve this and kind of, even in this very important moment, step up. Yeah, the returning, I think, especially being able to fall back this much on clay, it made a massive difference. Just not allowing Sabalenka to dominate the point as it usually was in this rivalry. You know, the ball was much heavier, much higher. She just didn't have as much of a free hand in basically overpowering Kinven as she did in the previous encounters. So the clay definitely had its part too. I do think Sabalenka had a little too much in terms of just all the excitement, all the big matches over the last 3-4 weeks for sure. And yeah, credit to Zheng obviously for getting this one. There's a lot of similarities in terms of her finally getting that win over Iga Świątek at the Olympics, and now over Aryna Sabalenka in Rome. I do think this one is significantly more impressive, as the opponent was just playing, maybe not her best on the day, but was still on the court and was still, let's say, and definitely in fighting back at least. So yeah, I think that was really impressive for sure. And then, of course, the other match that was today, as the producer has sort of has given us the schedule, is basically Gauff beating Andreeva again, second time during this Madrid-Rome double. Also a head-to-head that is looking very lopsided right now, 4-0. And kind of like last time, like the Gauff matchup just brings out all the inexperience of Andreeva.
Yeah, very much so. And I get the feeling that Coco feels comfortable frustrating Andreeva in both the cross-court patterns, so both forehand to forehand and backhand to backhand. I feel like she has an edge right now when they play. Just, not really able to get... When Mira uses the backhand down the line, or when she's able to open up the court, I just don't feel like she's able to do it as effectively, because Gauff is just like defending so well, like just putting more heavier, more power on her shots in these slow conditions, and she's really able to stick with Mira and just frustrate her in these really long rallies. And you see Mira more frustrated against Coco than against pretty much any other player right now that she plays. I think that's pretty fair to say. So and at times she did produce some really good tennis in the second set tiebreak, for instance, where you thought, oh, this might get really interesting. From 5-3 it became 5-all. But then Coco as well, I think, served pretty good today for the most part. The forehand held up, and I just think it's going to continue to be a pretty frustrating match. Not that like Mira can never beat Coco or anything like that. It's not like a super pigeonized situation or anything like that. Like, I do think they'll play many more times in 10 years. Mira will get her wins, but it just feels like the toughest matchup for her right now.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of the pressure that she's feeling in this matchup is also like exaggerated by herself. Like, she clearly just believes that she has to be like an all-out attacker in this one, that there's no other way. She has to go all out. She has to try stepping out of her comfort zone, and that's just not working out. Still had some decent moments. Obviously the second set was very entertaining, but yeah, it was like more of that. She's just more nervous. She's more frustrated when she's playing Gauff than other players. And she's just going to make a ton of errors, because it's not really her game to just like come out and try to blast the opponent off the court. Coco is obviously, so fast, so athletic, so agile. And she knows how to like accentuate all of these Mira weaknesses in this matchup. And I do think, she has a lot of ways. She has a lot of tools. Andreeva to potentially play Gauff in a different manner, but clearly she still needs some time to apply it, to basically try to mix something up and not just pretend that she is like, I don't know, an Aryna Sabalenka, which is kind of what she's doing in the Coco Gauff matchup. Who has a better serve, Coco or Kinven? Asks Milhouse. It's a comparable style as well, right? I think it's a good question, because both of them just serve like low first serve percentage, but very high first serve percentage one.
Yeah, it's interesting, honestly.
I guess Zheng, because she has a kicker as well. Like, she has she has another serve other than the flat bomb. And Coco,
I would say the second serve is more reliable, and they both have a big first serve, so probably slightly can win.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because both of them, they love that flat bomb, and it's very fast and it's very dangerous. But Qin Wen, I guess, has a reliable second serve kick, so that probably has to be the answer. Yeah, and of course the matchup coming up, it's not going to be Gauff Sabalenka again. It's not going to be the rematch of the Madrid final. It's going to be Gauff against Zheng, which is of course the rematch for the WTA finals final. As much as I hate saying this phrase, but in November that was a pretty exciting one, and it feels like these conditions, I mean, should be pretty similar. Like, should be a good battle.
It feels like a pretty open match, to be honest. Like they're both in pretty good form. Feels like similar-ish conditions, like you're saying. I mean, that was also pretty slow courts, and they're both kind of peaking at the right time. So it kind of depends. I wonder how the return position and how the kind of style that Qin Wen played today, how that'll work against Coco, because Coco is just going to present many different challenges. She's not going to just try to overhit and maybe play with that kind of same relentless offensive intent every single point like Sabalenka does. So it's a completely different matchup in that sense. And so far, Coco has been slightly better when they've played in just kind of the bigger moments, just handling the nerves a bit better. But who knows? Maybe Qin Wen has unlocked something this week, because she was pretty much under the radar. I mean, we talked about her at length. I remember when we were doing our draw ceremony, or not ceremony, the preview, I guess, for Rome, right? We were saying how she's like outside the top 30, but she made those quarterfinals in India Wells in Miami, and no one really kind of had her on the radar. But now I think with a run like this, it kind of puts her back in the mix. When she goes back to RG, there will be more attention and focus on her, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, early loss in Australia did a lot of that work in terms of us basically forgetting not forgetting she exists, but in making us not feel like she's, I don't know, a valuable member of the top 10 this year. Of course, Indian Wells Miami quarterfinals, as we mentioned 2 days ago, it was kind of like easy to forget about that because it didn't feel like she came close. Then Madrid, she loses early, so this week is for sure massive. As you said, very different matchup, but some of like the return position there, I think that's definitely something she can transfer. She was doing that already when they played at the WTA finals. That, of course, was a match that definitely could have gone both ways. Hasn't beaten Gauff. I mean, maybe that's another big time player she can grab a win against now. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it also looks pretty open for sure. And, that's a big call. I don't necessarily agree with, but in terms of drama, it was definitely there. In terms of how it wrapped up, one of the most important tournaments of the season. But I agree that the way that they were sort of like battling against each other there, it wasn't like Qin Wen felt that sort of pressure to just ball bash. Definitely not. So it kind of makes me think that here in these conditions, it could be very similar. Anything more to add on this one?
No, not really. I mean, do we know if it's going to be day or night?
Well, it will be the day off now, right? So it should be the day session, I would assume, simply based on that.
I wonder who that favors. Probably just an equalizer, to be honest.
Yeah, tough to say. Maybe the slower it is, it's better for Qin Wen, so maybe night would be better for her. But it's definitely debatable. So should be on Friday.
Yeah, Friday day, I think it sounds right.
Yeah, Friday day, right? That should be when it is. Anyway, we also were asked to talk about Stearns against Paolini. That's going to be.
Oh wait, you know what? No, I think it would be tomorrow actually, right?
Oh, because
finals on Saturday, so tomorrow would be semis.
All right, because we've already finished. Yeah, sorry guys, that's just me.
I think it would actually be night tomorrow.
Yeah, that's just me thinking about the men's tournament because of course Rome.
2 big masters.
Rome, Madrid, Miami, they're all just insane for starting the event or the women's event on Tuesday, the men's on Wednesday, and that's where all the confusion comes from. Because of course we have both semis set up, unlike for the men's, which is what I was thinking about. Anyway, yes, so tomorrow night session. Does that favor anybody? As we said, unclear. Maybe Zheng a little, but who the hell knows? Anyway, yes, the second semifinal. I totally agree. By the way, Joao, Indian Wells scheduling is by far the best and avoids the confusion. Anyway, Paulini's turns. Yeah, that's going to be the other semifinal. That's the one that we've already had set for the last 24 hours. Of course, Peyton has played some ridiculous matches getting there. Is it like 3-7-6 in the third wins in a row now?
Yeah, precisely. I think she's kind of been the story of the week for that reason, right? I mean, she's made that breakthrough against Keys, Osaka, and Svitolina, all back to back in similar-ish positions from death, I guess, in all three. Maybe not as much against Keys, but definitely against Naomi, down 2-4 in the third set breaker. And then yesterday was just insane, right? She's down love 2, then she goes up 6-2, 4-2. Then she's down 3-love double break in the third. And then she's also down 3-1 in the tiebreak, and she comes back and only loses 1 point from there. So absolutely insane run. And I think the day off should help her, because clearly, I mean, she's felt it physically as well, like puked like twice, in her matches. And was it the Osaka match where she puked twice? Something like that, right? Yeah.
I mean, Joao says that Stearns must be cooked. I think she's been cooked for the last 2 matches, and yet she's still winning them. So,
but like that's one of her strengths. Like, she's just super physical, and she's just like, she's super fit, and she's managed to come back from these. And so I don't think it'll be a situation where she'll be like totally dead and won't be able to play against Paolini, because I think the day off should help. And I think her brand is quite. She's much better suited to this than I think some other players on the WTA. And at the same time, you have Paolini as well, who made that insane comeback from against Schneider, 4-love down in the second set. Pretty insane. Obviously, just like her insane fighting skills, defense, and also the crowd as well, I think really helped her, along with that one. And I think Schneider kind of showed a little bit of inexperience in that moment. Didn't quite handle it super well. It got pretty tight finishing it out. But nonetheless, that should give Paolini a lot of confidence, who's now back inside the top 8 in the race. So I'm curious to see what this matchup looks like, because they never played each other. They both have pretty heavy forehands. Obviously, you have to give the edge to Stearns slightly on the serve, just with the kick serve, and just like how many more options she can to open up the court to finish points may be a bit easier, just because the forehand is such a big weapon. But then Paolini, I think, can really drag it and make it quite tight as well. I'm, kind of tempted to just take Stearns all the way to the final, just because it would be just like the most insane story for her to beat like 4 players of this caliber. But I don't know. I think logic kicking in, I'd probably slightly favor Paolini in 3, but it's pretty tight.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, Paolini should have lost to Schneider. Stearns, I don't know how she's still in the event, but she keeps doing it, and she keeps like actually, crushing these crucial moments. At this stage, maybe I will ask you another question, and it is somewhat controversial, but does this match even matter? I mean, isn't the winner just going to be the winner of Gauff and Zheng?
No, I mean, I think we can still get a competitive final. Like, I'm not that. I don't think it's like completely. I don't know. It's not like a Sangha Ferrer RG or something like that. Like, I do think the winner has a chance in the final. Like, if it's Gauff, I mean, you always have a chance against Coco, just because, the game can be so up and down, and she is going to be such a massive favorite. And then same thing with Qin Wen. They're like, Qin Wen will be trying to win her first big title too, outside, on the tour at least.
I mean, yeah, but the Olympics is comparable. I don't think it's nervous at all for her, like to try to win a WTA 1000 when she's already won the Olympics. Nah, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, maybe I think she's past that point now, but yeah, I mean, I think we could still get a good final. I don't think it's like a total washout.
I hope so. Although clearly, like if we were to make a power ranking, they would be 3rd and 4th. In terms of the top 4, I mean, Jasmine and Peyton. Yeah, I mean, of Paolini, I've already said something as well earlier this week, that you kind of always have a shot against her if you have a very high ceiling. I mean, Schneider basically had her on the ropes. She didn't do that. Stearns, if she just like turns on the forehand and it's as heavy and as nasty as it usually is, why not? Would I generally say that I don't know if she's going to hold up physically? Yeah, but I also said it last time, right? And she somehow did it. So who am I to say that she's not going to do it now? Hopefully, it's just not one of these matches where at some point it's just too much for Peyton, and it's clear from the get-go that like she doesn't quite have it physically. At least this time she has a day off. Probably helps. Hoping for a good match, but I think there's a very wide range of possible scorelines, and it's from a Paolini demolition to like a pretty good 2-set win for Peyton. So it's really many factors that we can't fully control.
Yeah.
Eat which words, Ghosty? Which words? Anyway,
Gene is mentioning the head-to-head between Zheng and Paolini, and I think I think it was like 4-0 for.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Zheng, so that's
She's been crushing her every single time, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see if it's any different in Rome. Hard to say.
Anyway, I think it's time to talk about the men then. And of course, we had 3 matches today. Let's maybe start with the kind of the one that was pushed back from the previous day. Kasper against Jaume Munar. Not as tough as they were generally, like in terms of this rivalry, especially 2025. There were a few breakpoints, I think, late in the second set for Jaume. Maybe some moments where you think like, okay, yeah, if he keeps going with Kasper, if he pushes him hard physically, maybe he still has a shot. But overall, yeah, just the Madrid winner is, just rolling with it.
Yeah, he's just rolling with it, and he looked too strong on serve from the baseline. He just had a lot more, I guess, pop and power in his shots, and just kind of, Jaume wasn't able to like use the kind of things that we're working on hard courts much better, like net rushing, drop shots, making Kasper play passing shots on the backhand. Like he just didn't really have time to control that, and Kasper just played with that right kind of intensity and like approach, being really aggressive with the forehand. So honestly, he's there wasn't that much to talk about. He was just a little bit better all the way through. Like,
yeah, wasn't as much of a grind fest as Jaume usually makes it against Kasper. So that was able. So the Norwegian was able to get into the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals.
Yeah.
He takes on Sinner in the quarters.
Yes, I absolutely hate this. I will say it once more. I hate having to think which round it is. Anyway, that match, I guess, was set today, so we probably didn't get any like previews for it yesterday. So Yannick Sinner, Casper Ruud. That's not a head-to-head that is extremely long. That's a head-to-head that kind of favors Yannick because, well, they only played indoors. But does it change much that they're going to be on clay now? And obviously, Casper, I mean, we never know when the fatigue kicks in.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the fatigue for Casper, but I do think he can make it more competitive because it's not indoors. And also, this is the right time to play Yannick. If he really has any shot, it's now, I know I was saying the same stuff when he played Sorundolo, but honestly, I think the same applies to Casper, if not even more. Of course, he will have to protect that backhand. He will have to, find ways like how he had to against Draper to do that, but it's different against Yannick because of how, just how strong the forehand and the backhand are and how much he improved also Sinner from the last couple of rounds. There were a few shakier moments, tight first set, 3-4, 4-5, some deuces. Sorundolo didn't always apply himself wonderfully in those situations. Maybe Casper will, and we'll just play a little bit more percentage tennis. And maybe we'll be able to get to Yannick's legs and wear him down. I mean, that's at least the hope. That's what you're telling Ruud if you're in his camp. And the kind of tennis and like the mindset shift that he has the last couple of weeks, the confidence, I think it should help him, like that match toughness and confidence. And there's still some question marks with Sinner. So I expect Sinner to get through, but I think I think Sinner will be pushed physically. It's not going to be like their ATP finals match, nothing like that. I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the bar isn't high after the ATP finals, where Casper was also peaking in the group stage, and then he comes out against Yannick, and he's like, deer in the headlights, really. Obviously, not indoors. Sinner just coming back. I still don't think that Yannick is gonna lose this. Not at all. Like semis, quarters, it just seems very nicely paved for him to make the final, which is also just because of how good he is and how efficient his game is. Obviously, that's not like for anybody else that would be really easy. Yeah, I mean, sure. First match on clay, we kind of saw another rivalry today that was, first match on clay, and suddenly it turns out things are very different. So it would be good for Casper to get this. I think if he does win it, it will be one of the best wins of his career already, despite Yannick just coming back. But I don't know if I really trust that it will happen, to be honest. Yeah, maybe more competitive is kind of what I think will happen. Like, again, the bar isn't high after the ATP finals, but honestly, I would be kind of surprised even with a set. I mean, maybe if Yannick just has one of these, like against De Jong, I think there was a moment where for like 10-15 minutes he barely plays. Maybe he has something like that at the start of the set. It's like 1-4 double breakdown. Maybe he can't recover from that. But yeah, I don't know. Just seems like Casper's game is maybe even, I would say, a little too predictable to beat a guy like that. While, of course, he has some amazing traits. He is also very much, I mean, you know what you're going to get. You know, he's going to line up for that inside-out forehand. You know exactly what sort of weapon he's going to be bringing out at any given moment. I'm not sure that really, is enough right now against Sinner. And I honestly don't know what is enough against Sinner right now, because he hasn't lost in like 30 matches. And even though he's just coming back, he's also just firing here on all cylinders. So, oh Jesus, that's a horrible joke in the chat. I mean, sure. Anyway, yeah. So that's gonna be Sinner against Ruud. I think we already had a preview of Hurkacz Paul on the channel, so I'm not gonna touch that.
What's the win streak count for Sinner now? Is it 24 matches?
I honestly just said 30. Like, I just guessed. I mean, it has to be post Beijing, right? So 6 in Shanghai, 5 ATP finals, 3 Davis Cup.
Yeah, and then Australia.
7 Australia, 24.
3 here, so 24. Okay.
24, yeah.
24, yeah. And I think in that game, he doesn't lost a tie break either.
We don't have Hurkacz Paul. How exciting! Yes, let's do 2 minutes on Hubert Hurkacz playing Tommy Paul. So the big F in Paul defeated Jakub Mensik in a battle of the clones, and now he's coming up against Tommy Paul, which was also the Rome quarterfinal last year, won by Tommy in 3 sets, and I haven't played since. Honestly, I'm not too optimistic in regards to Hurkacz's performance, because recently it feels to me like he's been losing against these type of opponents. Like Alex de Minaur has been just eating him up, for example. And to me, this is similar. Like, Paul is just so athletic. He's going to make Hurkacz just play that forehand and, inject pace with it. That's obviously an issue for the Paul. But then again, I wasn't too optimistic ahead of his match against Mensik. And, he never got broken. He won 2 tiebreaks. It was like a real vintage Hubert Hurkacz match, right? I mean, 2 tiebreaks won, never breaks the opponent and wins. Sorry, I said that he wasn't broken. Of course, he was. I meant that he didn't break Mensik. Yeah, I mean, I do favor Paul pretty heavily, I think.
Yeah, I like Paul's chances, to be honest. He got the first ever win over Alex. He can just, make it more athletic. It'd be tough for Hurkacz to finish points outside of the serve. Even against Mensik, you mentioned clones. I mean, they literally look like clones too, because they were wearing the same freaking outfit. And if you maybe are just a casual fan, you'd have been like, who's who? With how they're serving and hitting their forehands and stuff. I think that's weird, because literally Mensik has had 2 matches like that in a row, against Cerundolo and here, where they're all wearing the same stuff. It's like, can they not wear different outfits? But yeah, I think that was the quarters against Cerundolo, maybe. But anyways, yeah, Hurkacz Paul rematch of last year. I favor Paul, but I think it could be a situation where like Hurkacz wins a set in a tiebreak, and then Paul probably wins the other 2 sets.
Yeah, let Nico Masu cook indeed. Yeah, I mean, clearly what Hurkacz did, so like not playing Estoril and just training for the week in Monte Carlo, I think that gave him some great results here. Not doubting that. But just remembering some of these clashes with ADM recently just makes me think Paul is going to do the same to Hurkacz. Hopefully not as, lopsided as an Indian Wells, but still. Also, I mean, worth mentioning that Paul and ADM actually just did play, and that was another rivalry where, massive lead in the head-to-head was turned around. So good for the American. I do think he is pretty likely to get that back-to-back Rome semifinal and then lose to Yannick Sinner, because that's going to be much more difficult.
Who is more likely to beat Sinner? Hurkacz or Paul? Who's
Hurkacz,
more likely
Paul,
to beat Sinner?
I mean, it's not
Kind of
easy.
close, right? Yeah.
I know some would say Hurkacz simply because of the big serve, but just remembering something like Halle, where they like play a very good set, and then the tiebreak is just like, yeah, obviously Yannick is gonna win it, like it from the first point.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess neither. I can't really say. They're both screwed.
I'm kind of actually. I would probably sign up for Tommy.
Tommy would make it a more entertaining match.
Yeah, just more of a physical
It's more
battle,
athletic,
maybe
more shot
some sort of
making.
attritional
Yeah.
component to it. Maybe there's a longer third set where he can start. I don't know. Yeah,
Was
I
that
don't know.
US Open, for example, where he was up 4-love in the first set and then it went to a tiebreak, but for a while it was very entertaining. I think he had a set point in the second set too, but again lost it in the tiebreak. So,
Yeah, I'd
yeah.
probably side with Paul for this question. But I still wouldn't give him a big chance. I honestly, at this point, I just think Yannick is making the final for sure. And then he could probably lose to one of the semi-final guys. And let's talk about let's talk about them now. So obviously today we had Carlos Alcaraz avenging the loss from Indian Wells over Jack Draper. And well, it wasn't maybe like fully, one-sided, but still the best moments for Carlos were the best moments for Carlos, and kind of like, the second serve return, I think it was slightly better than in California. Wasn't like trying for so much on every single shot. And yeah, I don't know if he fully played it smarter, but his base level and his ceiling, especially like the 10-15 minute stretches he had, like that was too much.
Yeah, his best tennis was enough to get him through. Like his best tennis, there wasn't much Draper could do. Like from 2-4 in the first set to those 5 games that he reeled off, almost 6 if he holds on for 2-love. Like there was just so much there that Jack couldn't really do much about. Like there were those clutch serves that Carlos also hit, 15-40 down. It was like a ton of really good forehand play, like just a lot more, just like getting it in play more often. I think the pattern of Jack's backhand cross to forehand, that definitely favored him, kind of like Rude actually in Madrid. I think that's one thing probably Jack, his backhand is like a little too flat maybe for slow clay right now. But still, like he's made some improvements there, and he's going to be a factor, I think, going forward. Yeah, I mean, it was still an interesting match to watch because it very well could have still gone 3, with Draper having a lot of chances, and for a while, I think for about 4 or 5 games in the second, he was probably the better player. But then once Carlos held for 4-all and then broke and then served it out, there really wasn't much fuss. So I think overall, I think probably one of the better wins for Carlos this year. I mean, if we say the Feast match was the most significant in terms of just like turning it around from that precarious situation, this was his best win in terms of ranking, and maybe the overall high level of play. Those 10-15 minute stretches were maybe better than we've seen. So it was definitely good to get that done in straights, especially after going 3 against Hachinov.
I guess that works. In a way, I mean, I was so high on Alcaraz's chances to win this and Roland Garros, like outside of Sinner doing something, that maybe I'm just not treating it this way. Like I was treating this match today as like a bit of a foregone conclusion that he's gonna win it. But of course, it's important for him to avenge the Indian Wells defeat. Play a bit better than this, but also, yeah, again, as we say always, just have a little more time, to basically use that skill set that he has and then think on the court, which sometimes this year he was not able to pull off. But right now, he does still look like the biggest contender for the remaining clay court titles. Of course, we'll see what Sinner does, especially if he beats him. That power balance might get a little bit shaken up. And of course, the other semifinalist who made it was Lorenzo Musetti, who's having an awesome clay season. I mean, top 10 recently, but you could think, okay, so the grass season is coming up. He's going to struggle with all these points to defend. But he's gaining so much on clay as well. Final Monte Carlo, semis in Madrid, another semi now in Rome. And the match against Zverev, well, that was not another one-sided two-setter, that's for sure. Zverev was 6-5, 40-love up. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't do anything like, I don't think, blatantly wrong. It was kind of just another like performance of Musetti, when he has everything in his toolbox, really. It's such a tough game to execute. But when he does land it, when he has kind of like Carlos, like these 10, 15 minutes of just basically doing everything right, then he is like Jesus, who's just been mentioned in the chat.
Yeah, I mean that stretch was insane when he won those 12 out of 14 points, taking the tiebreak 7-1. I mean, he was just, his defense was off the charts. He was getting so many balls back, forcing Zverev to hit these awkward volleys on the net, which we know he doesn't like to do. Hitting those drop shots, opening up the court up with the angles. Like, he was just so versatile in how he was playing, and they're both hitting it pretty deep and hard and consistent. Zverev was making a really high percentage of forced serves like he normally does, but Musetti was just able to like steal a lot of these points, and he was the more creative one. He was the one coming up with all the like magician stuff and guile and stuff, and Zverev was a bit lost on how to hit through him. Aside from, he was forced to come in on so many shots, and most of the times he just couldn't execute it because Musetti was just anticipating really well, defending really well, coming up with smart passing shots, and it worked. I mean, for a while he was also getting served off the court, like he was down 4-2, and he went down an early break, and it kind of maybe didn't seem like he was going to win the first set. Actually, multiple times it didn't seem like that. So when he kind of got that first set, that was so huge that I think naturally you would expect a little bit of a dip from Zverev, but it actually didn't come. It didn't come until 4-all. Like, it was pretty high level for the first 8 games. If anything, Zverev almost had a few mini chances in himself to get an early break in the second set. So, but that 4-all return game that Musetti played was just some of the best you'll see all year on clay. Like, just stunning stuff. Backhand on the line winner there, drop shot from nowhere, like just really high, loopy, heavy shots, and then a nice volley to finish on break point. It was just super stuff to watch. So yeah, 3 semifinals in a row on clay. I mean, there's a very short list of players that have done that in Monte Carlo, Madrid, and Rome. So yeah, he's probably on track to make a quarterfinal, semifinal at least at Roland Garros right now.
Very draw dependent still, but is he gonna be in the top 8 of seeds?
Yes, so this guarantees him a top 8 seed.
Yeah, that should make things significantly easier. And Alcaraz Musetti now. So 5-1 for Carlos, the head-to-head. One pretty high-profile match that he lost. That was the 2022 Hamburg final. Recently, we had them battling in Monte Carlo, so he's one of the players to beat Lorenzo this clay season. And it was, it was one good set from Musetti, and then unfortunately, physically, he was just not able to continue after all these insane battles he was playing. Kind of coming back to my point that, the 1 week 1000s are actually tougher sometimes. Anyway, that's.
I mean, he also just had no rest, dude. Like, he had 10 hours of rest between his match with Alex.
Very little rest, definitely. I mean, some of that he brought to himself. He didn't need to lose all these 1-6 opening sets. But it is what it is. Anyway, we didn't really get to see that much in full flight. When we do see it, typically Alcaraz is just the player with easier weapons, easier ways to win points. Nonetheless, they're both magicians. They both have so much shot-making potential, so much creativity in their games. So if Lorenzo can kind of get him into a battle like this, it becomes a lot more even. So it's always good to watch this rivalry, even if, let's say, 80% of the time it's not the most competitive. However, in Rome, why not?
In Rome, I see this being quite competitive, to be honest. Because they're both just so good at so many different things in terms of their artistic repertoire, and with the crowd egging Musetti on, and just kind of how he's been hitting his forehand as well. Like, that's one thing I didn't talk about. He hit so many forehands in the upper speeds of 100 plus miles per hour in this match, and just inside out, the angles that he's able to create. Obviously, it'll be different against Carlos because Carlos is just much more attacking than Zverev, but at the same time, I mean, if Carlos has a few dips, it's not going to take much for Musetti to get into this one. So honestly, I don't see it being let's say, their RG match in 2023, or the third set of Monte Carlo. I feel like these sets will be pretty competitive. It'll be compelling. It'll be like their challenger match that they played.
Which is not on the screen right now.
Yes.
So please, Trieste Challenger 2020. Thank you. second best match of the 2020 Challenger season. The first one was Monteiro beating Cecchinato in Punta del Este in the final. At least that's according to my 2020 best Challenger matches of the season list, which was actually pretty comprehensive because at the time we only had about 50 events due to COVID. Yes. So that obviously I had to talk about that. I do think in Rome it's a decent chance. Should be a match where like every single point has to be won, a few times, and you basically have so much variability that the easier weapons, the fact that the Carlos forehand is just by far the biggest shot on the court, it doesn't necessarily have to mean all that much. It will mean that it's a bit easier, a bit more pleasant for him to play, I suppose. But Lorenzo has so much ability to just like mix it up and provide a massive curveball that who knows. I do think losing to Musetti here for Alcaraz would not be a tragedy. He would probably still be the favorite for Roland Garros if Sinner doesn't win this event in emphatic fashion. But of course, there's also the chance of Alcaraz and Sinner just clashing in the final, which would be amazing. There is something here in the chat about the power ranking ahead of Roland Garros and how it stands right now. The producer said that he thinks there are two groups, Alcaraz, Sinner, and the rest. And nobody is denying that. But you still have to put someone on top of that group of the rest. And there was a suggestion for Draper from Dave. My previous suggestion was Zverev, which I actually still stand for, I think. I still think he's number 3. But it is a big gap between Alcaraz and Sinner in that.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's at the top of number 3. Is it Zverev or is it Ruud? I don't know. We'll see. One of the two.
It feels very unlikely for either to win the title.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Draper, Musetti. Because to win the title, you're going to have to beat at least one of Alcaraz, Sinner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd honestly probably put Musetti even ahead of Draper at this point. But it's kind of close. There's like basically a long list of players after Djokovic and after Alcaraz and Sinner. Like Djokovic is also one of them. We'll see what he does in Geneva. But yeah.
Is Djokovic anywhere near the top of that group? Not for me, I don't think.
Not right now, but I mean, if he let's say he gets like 3 matches in Geneva, he wins his first 2 rounds in RG, all of a sudden he's like back in the conversation, I guess. But I'd be surprised if he won Roland Garros at this point.
Oh, digging deep for sure, Joao, but it's just like, we're talking about winning the title. And yeah, if we assume that for that you need to beat Alcaraz or Sinner, I think Kasper's chances are very low. But it's actually the same for most of these players. So maybe a Musetti should be higher. But then again, I think someone like Ruud has a better chance of going deep than Lorenzo is. Like Lorenzo is more vulnerable in the first week. So it's very tough. I really don't know. I mean, I guess Holger is somewhere in there too, but Franz Rundolo is somewhere in there as well. But
yeah, I think everyone can like just name the players, but then at the same time, it's like like Ruud probably has the best chance of going like actually furthest, but then he doesn't have as good of a chance when he faces Alcaraz and Sinner. Like almost nobody will back him in those matches. Whereas if it's Musetti, you're like, okay, like he has a puncher's chance, right? So interesting. Same thing with Fran, really. But
who is the most dangerous non-seed? Is Talon Hrixpor gonna be seeded, or is this still undecided based on his board Oran? I don't know, but if he isn't, then probably Hrixpor.
Yeah, and probably Zverev will be praying that he's not anywhere near him.
Yeah, but looks like based on his board Oran, he still might be seeded. Yeah, it's tough to say that. I mean, it easily could be Fonseca, but I don't think you can say that after his recent performances on slow play.
I don't think he's ready. No.
Yeah, I don't think we can say he's the most dangerous. Like, I still don't think nobody wants to draw him, but he's not the most dangerous unseeded player. Not around Garros. Maybe by Wimbledon, we'll see. There was something else here that I wanted to touch on. Oh yeah, Dave, I do sometimes, but honestly, I mean, it's easy to just ignore that. Most of the time, it's just, you very easily can see if someone bet on the match or not. Like if you tweet about something and the first comment is like, just someone being super angry at one player for seemingly no reason, or even at me for saying something, I mean, I just know what the intention is, and it's easy not to care. Let's just say that. But I do, yeah, for sure.
That's actually kind of a really hard question. Who is the most unseeded, dangerous unseeded player? I literally don't know. Francisco Comesaña? Lorenzo Sonego? I don't know.
I don't think I like the Comesaña shout, but I like this one from Joao a lot, for sure.
Ronaldo not going to be seeded. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, if he plays somebody who's just like going to try to attack him, like Artur Fils, for example, he's going to win. If he plays an aging veteran, he's going to lose. But Arnaldi is a good shout. Yeah, I like that.
What about Mute?
Sure. Wouldn't want to play him, but his chances of going on like a deep run are pretty low. But just for like 1 or 2 matches, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably don't want to go like super low. Again, I would love to say someone like Medjedovic, but I mean, given his recent performances, can't do that. Probably can't say that about someone like even, I don't know, Echeverri, who made the quarterfinals before, but just doesn't seem to be in good shape recently. Yeah, I mean, it's also not that easy. Probably Hrikspor, but he might still be seeded, so we don't really know that. Arnaldi will not be seeded, so yeah, there we can definitely say
maybe the Hechka. I don't know, but probably a better chance on the grass.
Yeah, I'd love to say that, but again, the recent performances. Bias is not dangerous whatsoever, clearly.
Yeah, I skipped over him.
I don't care if he's seeded or not. I mean, he's just shown us way too many times that he's not dangerous. Cerundolo is seeded, Ghosty. So
maybe Fabian Marozsan also, but although he hasn't really brought it in best of 5, he's more best of 3 guy. But why not? Why not him?
Yeah. Was just looking at his name, so I like that. Miller as well. It was Miller and Borges in the same ranking position, more or less, and I think both of them are similarly a threat. Unless, of course, Ghosty, you were talking about Juanma Cerundolo, in which case, well, let's see him qualify first.
Yeah. Maybe Jari also. That's another shot.
I don't buy that. I mean, kind of like Mute. It's like he's good for 1 or 2 matches, but he's not actually gonna go deep, no.
Yeah. What is like a deep run for them? Like 4th round?
Yeah,
probably like 2nd week, right?
Something like that. Yeah, 2nd week, I think. For an unseeded player, it's probably 2nd week. Yeah, because 3rd week. I mean, okay. I guess as an unseeded player, you need to beat 1 seed at least theoretically to make the 3rd round. So maybe the 3rd round, but I'd say 2nd week. Yeah, is what we're gonna say. Chorich in form, sure, but like he's won 4 challengers and then he's done nothing in like Barcelona, Madrid qualifying. I don't buy it. There was someone as well. Who was I gonna mention? I don't remember.
Oh, Navone maybe.
Yeah, he lost to Nardi again. He's like. I'm very disappointed with the results. I don't feel like the tennis has actually gotten that much worse, but the results have.
I feel like he's losing a lot of tight ones, but the tennis is good.
Yeah. Altmaier is who I wanted to mention. Daniel Altmaier.
Oh yeah,
a lot of upsets in the past at RG.
Yeah, Nori. I don't really buy it right now as much as I'm a fan of his.
Yeah, I mean, by now we're outside the top 100, so these guys will, well, most of them at least will be playing qualifying. Cilic, I wouldn't want to play him, but again, it's maybe 1 or 2 matches. The Alcaraz owner, Monteiro, after losing 2-6 to Mitchell Kruger this week, I don't think so. Also earlier 3-6, I think, to Mochizuki in Ostrava. He's not having a good time on the court right now. Cam Nori, yeah. Let's leave that.
Francisco Pissarro, if he draws Dimitrov, you can take him out again.
Passaro Dimitrov. Elmer Miller if he qualifies, let's say. But he also pulled out of the event this week, so I don't know. With Nori, I mean, I'm gonna leave it to the British guys. I think I'm not ready to hype up Cameron Norrie. I'm sorry. We have to invite James over.
Yeah. Well, in that case, yeah, he will be in It'll be a Draper Nori final.
Yeah, I mean, with guys like Sabovit, we're just looking at people who have or once had a high ceiling, but like, you could go absolutely crazy with that. But I mean, the chance that he is actually going to play something
Hurkacz is not going to play, right?
very
Otherwise, I
low.
would say he's like kind of the guy who could get to the third round and like he could win those like 5-setters.
Who?
Kokkinakis, but he's not.
Oh, Kokkinakis. Yeah, but he's not fit, right?
Yeah. Man, I was so optimistic about the Luka Pui thing, but then he got hurt and it looks like his career is over. So that's I can. You don't really need to hold me accountable to that.
I don't think Ruaya has a high ceiling, to be honest. And yeah, Joao, I remember that. I honestly thought you were right. I thought that Billy Harris was just going to lose to Stan, but apparently Stan on the day had just one set in him. But that just makes it easier for Talon tomorrow, right? I mean, I don't think he's losing to Billy Harris, whereas Wawrinka Hrigspor, that sounded a lot more difficult. Kokkinakis is very good on clay, Ghosty, please. No question marks. This is a theory I've been pushing forward for the last 10 years. Actually, I didn't even have to because he made Roland Garros round 3 when he was 19 in 2015 or 18 maybe even. And I think it might actually be one of his, well, let's just say it's debatable whether it's his best surface.
Is this where we get Emilio Nava winning a match in the main draw?
Joao Kyrgios cannot play qualies because he's just not on the list either. So he will just not play Roland Garros. I know what he said, and it was ridiculous to me at the time because, I mean, I think his chances of getting a wildcard from the Aussie Federation were like, no, 0. And they were absolutely right to give it to Tristan. And then, yeah, I mean, he's not on the list for either main draw or qualies. So,
oh yeah, Vucevic. Yeah, the classic. The thing is, he doesn't really beat the seeds ahead of him.
Yeah, Vucevic is just another guy like Navona whose tennis hasn't actually declined, but his results suck.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see him like
still play. I
qualifying
mean,
against
the
really
3-hour
good
match with Borges, in Estoril, like that's still top 50 tennis, but he's so far out that he has to qualify first. All right. I mean, Garin, I guess, is getting some form back, but these are just ridiculous shouts by this point, let's be honest. Which I think brings us to probably a closing of the stream. That's the police. I don't know. Anyway, okay. That's interesting. Sure. Well, I mean, I didn't know if you were in like Russia or North Korea. Anyway, yeah, that was probably it then. We talked about the previews, the reviews, and even some Roland Garros questions, which definitely are going to be further developed in the WTA ATP Weekly episodes at the end of Rome. Still a lot of action left, seemingly. I mean, it's actually not that much action in these formats, but a few matches left in ATP WTA Rome. So tomorrow, plenty of excitement ahead. We talked about all of these matches. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you, Vansh.
Yep, thank you. This was definitely a bit all over the place, but it was fun.
And yeah, thank you to everybody who was in the chat. And we'll see you guys on some other content. Keep subscribing, liking, and you know what to do.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.